So welcome back everybody to another part of my Blu-ray collection. Now we're going to be looking at 3 different labels today, purely because I don't have that many from them. 101 Films, Signal 1 Entertainment and BFI. I have plenty of 101 films, just not that many of the other two, so I figured with these being the last of the few major labels, I'd put them all together. I'm still not decided whether or not I'm going to go through the rest of my collection or just leave it for a surprise in terms of what I have, or for when I do more focused reviews on films or recommending films or anything like that. So yeah, still yet to decide on that, but for now we're going to be looking at 3 different labels, and yeah, 101 Films is the first of them. Now these generally are a little bit mixed in terms of what the kind of releases they have. I have films here from the 60s, 50s, also from the the 70s and 80s. No newer than that though. Yeah, the 80s is pretty much the cut-off for these films. Some of these do come with posters or a booklet or a little bit of a pamphlet inside. But yeah, I don't have any of the posters to show off because they're all currently on my wall. So yeah, we're going to start off with a few B movies from the 50s. The first of which is The Land Unknown. Now this is basically a dinosaur kind of creature feature kind of thing. But yeah, behind a barrier of Antarctic ice, and yeah, they basically go and look for a world that has really been, not discovered by mankind. And yeah, it's not particularly great. The dinosaur is basically a rubber suit, but it's fun enough in its own right. And if you're into these kind of B movies from the 50s, then yeah, it would be right up your alley. This actually comes with a poster, which is currently residing on my wall. It's basically the artwork on the cover. And then we got The Alligator People, again another kind of B movie. The reason I like this as much as I do is because the alligators are pretty much in close proximity to the actors. There's no editing or cutting. They're basically in the same area as the alligators. So it's got Lon Chaney in it, and yeah, it's not particularly great. Again, the effects aren't brilliant or anything like that, but it is an entertaining and goofy enough film. It's only an hour 14, so it doesn't stick around too long to get annoying. And then probably my favourite of the lot that we have here, Tarantula. Basically just a giant 100-foot tarantula that's going around rampage in the desert. And yeah, got John Agar in it, and Leo G. Carroll. Pretty damn good film. Effects aren't, again, the best, but they are the better of the 3 that we've so far looked at. And yeah, again, not around very long, only an hour 20, and yeah, just another creature feature from the 50s, basically. But yeah, another really fun one. That, like Alligator People and The Land Unknown, also has a poster. And now let's move on to the 60s with the lowest rated film I have here, and yeah, it's from the 60s, like I said, 1964's Crack in the World. So yeah, basically a nuclear test goes really wrong, where yeah, it ends up splitting the world up, and yeah, it's really, really good. I like the effects on this. Nice load of miniatures, and yeah, it's not too serious or anything like that, and it is a little bit slow in places, but yeah, I only well, it's an hour 36, so it's not particularly short like the other films, but makes a good use of that time. And yeah, 101 Films actually released this for the first time on Blu-ray. No one else had done it at that time. So yeah, I like 101 Films for doing these kind of films that aren't particularly massively popular or well known or weren't even critically regarded at the time, but are at least giving them the Blu-ray treatment. And then we've got Jack the Giant Killer. Now this is looks like a Ray Harryhausen film because it's got a lot of stop motion, a lot of fantastical creatures and all that lot, but it wasn't. But I think the effects are still pretty damn good regardless of that. And yeah, it's also got Nathan. It's directed by Nathan Duran, who did Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, which we've already seen in the Indicator series of films that I have. And yeah, it's a really, really good fun film. As you can see, it's got a good array of creatures there. Got a twin-headed giant. And then we've got, a cyclops, I think it is, and then we've got a bird of prey or something. Been a while since I've seen this, but yeah, it's a good film, and it's got the 2 different cuts on it as well. Only a few minutes between the 2 of them, not entirely sure what major difference there is between them. But yeah, still a really, really good fun film from the 60s, and yeah, makes great use of the Ray Harryhausen kind of effects. Now, these next few are the more special edition kind of films. They don't have posters or anything like that, but they are, yeah, the more special editions. And the first of those is The Deep, starring the great Robert Shaw and Nick Nolte. And yeah, it was unfairly classed as a Jaws rip-off, purely because it spends a lot of time in the water, but there is no shark really, and yeah, it's not really about that. It's about finding gold or treasure in a sunken World War II freighter in the Bermuda Triangle. And yeah, it's a little bit gruesome at times, as you can see from that second picture there. And yeah, that's why it is a 15. But yeah, I really like this film. It's not particularly great, and it's certainly trying to look like it apes off the Jaws, but it really isn't. And yeah, it's far better than that would let it show off us. And it's also got a little magazine in there as well, Cinema Retro. So it's just basically ripping off of those kind of cinema, those kind of magazines from that time period when we'd look at the film. So yeah, it's really nice little pamphlet there that goes through some of the film in a bit more detail. Then we have a film that was also unfairly classed, but this time as a disaster genre of a film, but it really isn't. It's a Roller Coaster. Now this is more of a thriller, because it's about a bomber that is threatening to destroy a roller coaster for money if he doesn't get it. So yeah, he does that in the first instance to show what he's capable of, and it's a horrifyingly realistic roller coaster crash. And yeah, then it's all about trying to catch him before he does it again, basically. So yeah, this again comes with a nice little booklet. It's a bit better than the pamphlet in The Deep, as it's yeah, made out of proper paper and all that lot. But yeah, really nice thriller, really well done, really engrossing from beginning to end. And like I said, that horrifying roller coaster crash at the beginning is, yeah, easily one of the most horrifying scenes in the 70s in terms of, human peril. And yeah, it's also really rather tense throughout. And there's a standard Blu-ray. Nothing inside, but it does come with the uncut version and the theatrical version. The uncut version is the one good to go for, because it's a little bit more horrifying with that roller coaster crash. I think they edited it somewhat down for the theatrical release. And then we've moving on swiftly to the 80s. And this is like The Deep. I got this recently. The New Kids, They Can't Afford to Lose. So basically it's about two new children that arrive in a town to live with... they go to live with their relatives in a small Florida town after their parents die in a car crash. So basically they're dealing with all the usual kind of thing for new kids deal with when moving somewhere new. New school, new people to be around, the bullies of the town and the high school and all that lot. But unlike some other teen drama films from the 80s, because this is directed by the Friday the 13th director Sean S. Cunningham, it gets extremely dark towards the end. So yeah, highly recommend it if you're into that kind of stuff. And yeah, again, like Roller Coaster, this also comes with a nice paper booklet going through all the sorts of the film. And yeah, it's really enjoyable. I didn't expect to like this, because the first hour or so is a little bit misguiding in terms of what it's going to be like, because like I said, it's like a teen drama. It's like other teen drama films from those from the 80s, but yeah, it does take a really sharp right hook, and yeah, it really does come off better for it, because yeah, it makes for a surprising turn. Yeah, the Blu-ray doesn't have anything extra in it, it's just a standard film, but yeah, again, it's a 15 like The Deep, though I'd say New Kids is a far more violent film than that is. But a film that's even more violent than those is Dolls, which isn't my favourite film ever. I think it's only really a 3-star film, but it's a really fun film regardless of what I think about it, and it's directed by Stuart Gordon, who did Reanimator, and yeah, it's got really nice effects. It's just, a violent film about dolls coming to life, really. But yeah, it's fun enough. It's just nothing that you should really be taking too seriously. So yeah, nothing special about this in terms of the Blu-ray. It's just the disc itself, and yeah, they walk, they talk, they kill, and they sure do that. And another one is Alien Nation. Now, this kind of comes off as a rip-off of The Hidden, which also has an alien cop joining forces with a human cop, but it's still a decent film in its own right, and James Caan, Mandy Patinkin, and Terence Stamp are all really good. And yeah, again, it's an 18, just like Dolls, and yeah, it's a nice, solid buddy cop film, really. And yeah, the aliens are a little weird. They have a weakness of water, weirdly enough, considering they landed on Earth. And the final film in this 101 Films collection is the film FX, starring Brian Brown and Brian Dennehy, the two Brians. And yeah, it's basically about an FX artist who is tasked by the FBI, I think it's the FBI, no, the Justice Department, to fake the death of a mafia boss. But yeah, it ends up turning out that it makes him look like he's killed the mafia boss when the mafia boss is eventually killed, and he has to basically try and clear his name. And yeah, it's a really good film. Uses the whole like FX effects really nicely, and yeah, solidly directed, and yeah, well paced, and has a good cast. Right, now we're moving on to Signal 1 Entertainment. I only have 3 from these, but they're still 3 solid films regardless. And the first of these is Panic in the Streets, which is a really rather thrilling film, because it's about a guy that has a disease or a virus, and he's a ticking time bomb basically, and they have to find the guy before he ends up spreading it further. And yeah, Richard Widmark is really good. It's really well directed, and yeah, it's only a scant 96 minutes long, so it's not particularly long, but yeah, it's really, really well done. And yeah, I like the idea of, you know, a person with a plague that they don't, a person with a disease who doesn't know they have it, that's spreadable, being hunted by a doctor and the police. So yeah, that's really nicely done. Then we've got a pair of Roy Schneider films from the 70s, first of which is Last Embrace, which is really kind of like a Hitchcockian kind of film. Doesn't have the best payoff, but for the first hour or so, it's a great film, and yeah, really is a solid film overall, even if, you know, the payoff isn't the best. But yeah, really thrilling film, really engrossing, and yeah, has a decent enough plot. But the better film of the 3 that we've, well, of the Roy Schneider films at least, is The 7-Ups. Now, this is basically one of those car crash films from the 70s, so it's got a great car chase in it. It's really gritty as well in terms of its environment, because it's set in New York. And yeah, Roy Schneider is great, and yeah, it's a solid cop film overall. And now, moving on to finally BFI. Again, I only have a few from these, but a bit more in terms of films in comparison to Signal 1, because there's a couple of collections here. But the first of which is a superb horror film called The Innocents, all in black and white, but absolutely sensational. Really did set the kind of trend for you know, haunted house films, and yeah, really highly recommend it. If you've seen, like, say, The Others, then yeah, I think you'd really rather enjoy this as well. And yeah, cracking film, and yeah, got a solid performance from what's her name, Deborah Kerr, who is, yeah, superb in it. Then another superb pair of performances in The Eye of the Needle, with Donald Sutherland and Kate Nelligan, and yeah, a superb World War II film, which is about Donald Sutherland trying to trying to get some information for the Nazis, basically. And yeah, he's in the Scottish Islands, and yeah, it's a cross between a romance and a thriller, but it does it really effectively. It does remind me of Casablanca in that regard, that, you know, it's set on this like kind of island, but in an area that really isn't particularly touched by World War II, but is obviously feeling the you know, consequences of it, but also has, you know, romance and thriller elements into it, though obviously Donald Sutherland is the bad guy, whereas in Casablanca, obviously, Humphrey Bogart is not the bad guy. Now we've got a collection of films here from the director Otto Preminger. His film noir collection with Fallen Angel, Whirlpool, and Where the Sidewalk Ends. Comes with a nice little booklet, and they're all individually cased, which is always nice to see. So there's Fallen Angel, Whirlpool with Gene Tierney, which is really good, and Where the Sidewalk Ends, which is my favourite of the 3. All really solid film noirs, all highly recommended, and yeah, like I said, it also comes with a little booklet, which again just goes through the films in somewhat detail. So yeah, I highly recommend all 3 of those. It's a nice collection. It wasn't all that expensive either for 3 films, and yeah, the 3 films that you can't particularly get anywhere else. And finally, we've got the great Akira Kawasawa, the Samurai Collection, with 7 Samurai, Throne of Blood, The Hidden Fortress, Yojimbo, and Sanjiro. All great films, really. Although I actually prefer Sanjiro to Yojimbo, which might not be the the most popular choice, but I've never been one to follow the trends. But yeah, there they go, all 4 of them. Or all 5, but 2 of them are on the same disc. I think it's Yimbo and Sejiro, yeah, that are on the same disc. Yeah, they are. But then again, they are technically a series of films, those 2. So yeah, that's why they're in there. And then you also get a nice little booklet, which is actually thicker than I remember. And yeah, again, goes through the films. I think Seven Samurai is probably my favourite of the lot, although it is definitely the longest. And yeah, you need the patience to deal with a 3-hour film. But they're all properly good films, and yeah, shows that Akira Kawasawa was the great filmmaker that he was, and a highly influential one as well, as I think it was The Hidden Fortress that's influenced Star Wars, and then Seven Samurai actually influenced The Magnificent Seven, so yeah, you've definitely felt the effect of Akira Kurosawa, even if you've never watched a film from him. So yeah, there we go. That's the 3 film, those 3 labels there. 101 Films, BFI and Signal 1 Entertainment. Highly recommend all of those films, to be honest. I know some of them are a little bit, goofy, or a little bit, ooh, what's that? Alligator people, or tarantula, or whatever like that. But they are well worth watching, and yeah, they are all a treat to watch, even if you might not get the most out of them. But yeah, nonetheless, I'll still going to think about whether or not I'm going to look at any more of my collection, because on the whole, I would like to save some of it for a surprise, because I am planning on doing a free film Friday series where I just look at three of my films out of my collection, go into them in a lot more depth than I have been with these videos, and yeah, recommend them to you. And then also I am doing update collection videos, because I have bought plenty of films recently. You've seen 2 of them here, The Deep and the New Kids I only got today. So yeah, but I have bought other films from Indicator or Steelbooks or anything like that. So yeah, we'll definitely be doing some update videos in the future. But nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.